Could it be? With me, your me, Louie T. Welcome. You are in the draft room with your man Louie T, here to talk NFL draft. A lot of topics to get to tonight. Hopefully, we can get through all of them. I'm going to give you guys an hour tonight. Hopefully, we can get through this without any technical difficulties. If not, then you know what time it is, man. But in any event, want to come and talk about the 2017 NFL draft. Few developments have taken place already in this young draft season. I want to talk about some of the topics that have caught my eye, discuss some of the upcoming pro days, and get into the quarterback position, which is always intriguing. And we'll start as we do this each week. We'll tackle a specific position, kind of dive into that position, talk about some specific players that we think are among the best at that position and where those guys are going to come off the board. What do you see them being at the next level? And what's the value for these players, and maybe a comp that you may see at the next level. So we'll jump into all of that as we continue to get into this program as the weeks get closer and closer to the NFL draft. But tonight, I want to start with some of the hot topics surrounding the 2017 NFL draft before we get to any of your comments. Sidney Jones, star cornerback out of UW, University of Washington, torn Achilles at his pro day. And this is going to have, I think, some rippling effects throughout the college football ranks in terms of what players decide to do. We saw what Jalen Smith's injury last season did to guys this year, okay, in their bowl games. Okay, Jalen Smith goes down in the bowl game versus Ohio State last year, doesn't play a snap in his rookie season in the NFL because of the injury. Saw his draft stock drop from a top 5 potential number 1 overall pick, definitely top 5 for sure pick in the 2016 NFL draft, all the way to a second round selection. So you're talking about one less year on that rookie contract. You're talking about a lot less guaranteed money in that first deal. So big ramifications there. Guys didn't play in their bowl games, i.e. Christian McCaffrey and, of course, Leonard Fournette. So you saw the impact there. Some guys electing to not play in the bowl game but get ready for the combine. Now with Sidney Jones going down at his pro day, and you know what has shocked me is that we haven't seen a guy go down at the combine yet. I'm really surprised. I've been expecting this for quite some time, that a guy's gonna, tear something running a 40, or a guy's gonna be out doing positional drills at the combine and go down in a heap. Everybody's gonna be quiet and everybody's gonna be looking and saying, "Oh my gosh, that could have been me." But we just haven't seen it, and it's amazing to me because with all the injuries and how tightly wound these athletes are, you would expect something like that to occur in an event where there are over 300 athletes each and every single year competing to show off their talents in front of NFL scouts, GMs, and coaches. But we haven't seen it. But yet at a pro day, when Sidney Jones is going out, and this is a guy we're not talking about Sidney Jones as a guy who didn't come out and compete at the combine. This guy went out, did everything at the combine, ran, did all the drills, and he was just looking to solidify his status as a first-round pick in the upcoming draft, which he was going to be. All he had to do was go out and showcase his skills at his pro day one final time, and he was going to be done with the process. He goes down doing positional drills at the UW pro day, tore his Achilles. And now the question becomes, where does this guy go? Are you going to get great value with Sidney Jones like the Cowboys may have done with Jalen Smith last year? Is this guy going to drop to the second round? Is this guy going to drop even further? Because remember, he wasn't a Blazer before this injury. He was a 4-5 corner. Now, is this going to make teams think twice about taking him potentially in the second round? Does he still go in the first round? What do you do with Sidney Jones? And the bigger question is, does this have a rippling effect on guys coming out next year, the year after that? Do guys stop saying, you know what? I did it at the combine already. I'm not doing it again at my pro day. Do guys start taking a different approach to these workouts? We're going to see if Sidney Jones' injury has that kind of effect on players and their future decisions moving forward. How about Joe Mixon shooting up draft boards The embattled Oklahoma star running back is reportedly shooting up draft boards after his private workout that he had where he ran supposedly a 4.47 to a 4.5. The actual time has been disputed. Either way, for a guy that's 6'1", 225 pounds, running that fast, it really doesn't matter. We know Joe Mixon is an all-around running back, a guy that can catch it out of the backfield, was one of the most prolific pass-catching backs in all of college football. He's also a guy that can run in between the tackles, but also get to the outside, has enough speed to do so. Joe Mixon, a very versatile back. The only thing I question is how good is he in pass protection, but in any event, he's got NFL GM scouts salivating after his workout, and then he sat down, talked to these teams in individual meetings. A lot of teams feel a lot more comfortable. Now, I told you this was going to happen. I felt like he should have been at the combine. Bottom line, the NFL is a joke because he should have been at the combine. That's guys like Joe Mixon, guys like Chad Kelly who have a checkered past. That's why you want them at the combine, so these teams can sit down and properly vet these guys. Even if it's only for 15 minutes, you want to get a feel for a guy. Look, we need to take this guy off our draft board. This guy's a head case. Last year, a lot of people knew that Randy Gregory was a head case at the combine, took him off their damn board. That's why you want these guys at the combine, so that you can properly vet them initially and not even have to deal with them moving forward. Joe Mixon should have been at the combine. He's one of the best 300 athletes coming into the draft. He deserved to be there. Yes, he has a checkered past. Yes, what he did, no one condones, but he made a mistake. People deserve second chances. He's going to play in the league anyway, which was my initial point. He's going to play in the league. Do you think that 7 rounds are going to go by and no one's going to take a talented football player like Joe Mixon? It's not happening. Let the man come to the combine. Let him sit down, explain himself to these teams, talk about how he's a changed man, talk about all of the things he's done to reform his life, and let this man be, because he's going to be in the National Football League when it's all said and done. And so he's reportedly shooting up draft boards. Is he going to be a first-round pick? I want to hear from you guys. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Is Joe Mixon going to be? I think he's going to be a first-round pick. If you're talking running backs, you're talking Leonard Fournette, you're talking about Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon is in that discussion. Joe Mixon, to me, someone's going to take him, if not in the first round, definitely in the second round. And yeah, you're going to hear a little bit of pushback from some fans. There'll be some fans outside of whatever stadium he's at, picket signs, and they'll be upset. And guess what? Just like last year with Frank Clark, or 2 years ago with Frank Clark, they will go away by the midpoint of the season and we'll forget all about any domestic violence or anything of that sort. So miss me with all of that. NFL trying to stand up all of a sudden now. Get out of my face. All right. Corey Davis, wide receiver, first round potential wide receiver out of Central Michigan, not going to work out at his pro day. So this is a guy that didn't work out at the combine because of the ankle injury. Now he's skipping out on the pro day as well. Question: Does the injury to Sidney Jones have anything to do with Corey Davis's decision to say, you know what, my ankle's not all the way healed, I'm not working out at my pro day? I'm just saying, look, it could already have an impact. And I said that Sidney Jones injury may change the way some of these guys and agents and handlers go about the process, about these guys working out so many times before the draft, because all it takes is one injury to change your draft status, as we saw with Jalen Smith, as we're going to see with Sidney Jones, a guy that was going to come off the board in the first round, probably not going to be a first-round pick now. Let's see how far he falls. But does that kind of weigh into the decision-making process for Corey Davis and what he decides to do? Will he have a separate private workout before the combine? Remember, Malik Hooker, star safety out of the Ohio State University, probably not going to be able to work out because of the surgery that he had prior to the combine. So it's not like this is something that we haven't seen before. Guys have had surgery before, haven't been able to produce a little bit of a sample for these GMs to go off of. You're just going to have to watch the tape. And if you like the guy enough, you think you know what you're going to get out of him, then you draft him. If you sit down, you talk to him, you like the kid, you like what he's bringing to the table, you watch the tape, everything matches up, then you just got to go off of instinct. Is this going to cost Corey Davis if he doesn't show some sort of workout, if he doesn't show some kind of sample for these GMs, coaches, scouts, is this going to hurt him? Is he going to fall out of the first round conversation? Because a lot of people think that he's one of the top 3 receivers in this draft, along with Ross and Mike Williams out of Clemson. So the question then becomes, does he step out of the first round conversation because of his decision that, again, could have been impacted by the injury that was sustained by Sidney Jones? Again, we can't confirm nor deny his thought process, but I'm telling you, guys are going to start taking that stuff into consideration. Maybe he's the first in a long line of guys that are going to start doing that moving forward. We will see. I think Corey Davis needs to put together a little workout for some GMs and scouts before the draft. I don't know if people, and look, this guy has an amazing skill set, and I think he's fast, but I'm not sure if he's a blazer, and I think teams want to know, how fast are you? And so I think he needs to go out and improve a couple of things if he wants to improve his draft stock. We'll see what happens with that situation. And my final little opening comment is, what round, and I want you guys to answer this as well, what round does Teez Tabor go in if he doesn't improve his 40 time dramatically? Remember, this guy went out and ran a 4.6 at the combine. If he's no faster than a 4.6, let's say he goes to his pro day and he turns around and he runs a 4.6, a 4.58, okay? Let's say Teez Tabor is a 4.58, 4.60, 40 guy. What round do you take him in? Do you say, to hell with the 40 time, he's a football player, I want him out there? Remember, some of the best players that we have in this league today did not blaze it at the combine, okay? Antonio Brown ran a 4.57 at the combine. Richard Sherman ran like a 4.57, 4.53, 4.5, or 4.6. Josh Norman, 4.6. Everyone didn't go out and blaze it at the combine. So, question then becomes, is Teez Tabor a better football player on tape? And does that trump his lack of speed? Or is that too much of a burden for a defensive coordinator? Is that too much of a hurdle to get over to make this guy a first round selection? And does he drop out of the first round? Which I thought he was a fringe first rounder to begin with, okay? I think a lot of people liked his running mate at Florida, Quincy Wilson, better than him. I know I did, because of his size, his length, and he's faster. So that was case closed for me. But is Teez Tabor a guy that you would take with the first round pick despite his potential slow speed? Now, he could clean it up in his pro day, and we could be having a very moot conversation right now. But as of right now, that's a really slow 40 time, and I don't think he's that fast of an athlete. I mean, maybe a team that runs cover 2, maybe a team that feels comfortable with this guy being up around the line of scrimmage, or a guy that can keep his eyes on the quarterback. Maybe a team feels comfortable pulling the trigger on him in the first round. I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think? Let's get to your comments. I want to talk quarterbacks now, and I want to get to some of the answers that you may have had from some of these comments that I've had to start this show. So we're going to get to your comments. I want you guys, and we're throwing it back a little bit here, I want you guys to tell me what's really good here on the Louie T Live in the Draft Room program.
Let me ask you a question.
What's really good?
Only thing we really want to know right now, what? Is what's really good. What's really good, huh? But the question for y'all, what's really good?
I have no further questions.
All right, so what I want to do is, before we jump into this quarterback discussion, because I really think that there's 9 draftable quarterbacks in the 2017 NFL draft. Some of you may agree, you may disagree. That's fine. Everybody has their own opinions. This is why the draft is so polarizing, is because everyone has their own opinion. And again, I tell you this every year, this same time of the year. And it's never more true than this time of the year. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. Okay? So even if I tell you something, you don't need to go run to the bank and cash that check. Okay? You need to make sure you verify and check again before you go running with any information. So 9 quarterbacks, you may be 8 for you, maybe 10 for someone else, maybe 11 for somebody else, okay? For me, it's 9 draftable quarterbacks in this draft. You've got the 5 you see in front of you, and those guys are Trubisky, you've got Kaiser, you've got Watson, you've got Kaya, you've got Mahomes, you've got Davis Webb, you have my man from Tennessee, Joshua Dobbs. You got you got Peterson out of Pitt, and you've got Chad Kelly out of Ole Miss. Those are the 9 guys that I see as draftable quarterbacks. All right, those are your 9. I don't have anybody else that I see getting drafted this year. And that's right around where you have the amount of quarterbacks you see drafted in the NFL every year. 8 to 10, maybe 11 in a great year, which we don't have many of those in terms of quarterback years. So let's jump to some of your comments and see what's really good with you guys. See what you have to say. Mind Draw says, how's it going, Lou? What's going on, Mind Draws? Chris Deaver says, yo, my man, Louie T live, going to bed, but I will be watching at work tomorrow. Can't wait. # we them boys. What's going on, Chris? Make sure that if you guys are out there and you haven't had a chance, there's still time. If you want in on my Louie T bracket challenge, it's not too late. Just send a message to me on Instagram or Twitter. You have to be following me on either one of those social media platforms in order to get in. But make sure you just send me the hashtag Louie T Bracket Challenge if you want in. Not too late. You still got till tomorrow at 12:15 p.m. before that first tip of that first game. Then brackets are closed. The winner gets his or her team, their choice of what team goes first in the draft wrap-up series. So, my man Reese says, sup, Lou? Good to see you. Plain and simple, what does Deshaun Jackson add to the Buccaneers? He adds an element of speed that you lacked a season ago. He changes the way defenses are going to play against you guys. It's going to give Mike Evans so many more opportunities to get open and catch the football. Teams could key in on him last year because, let's face it was just him and Cameron Brate. Let's make America Brate again. It was just those 2 guys out there holding it down, catching the football. What it's going to do is make teams have to respect his speed deep. It's going to open up everything underneath. If you want to dump it down to Charles Sims out of the backfield, he's going to have plenty of space now because teams are going to respect anything intermediate. You're going to see Jameis Winston be able to go and complete 14 to 19-yard pass chunk plays like water. I mean, like he's drinking water, like he's changing underwear. All right? It's going to happen like clockwork because those safeties are going to back up. And it's also going to give you a lighter box. So if you are having issues running the football consistently, you're not going to have as many issues because they're going to have to respect the speed. Now, you just need him to stay healthy. If he's healthy, he's going to add a dimension to your offense that it's lacked for quite some time, maybe since Joey Galloway was there. And I'm not saying Mike Evans isn't fast. I'm not saying Vincent Jackson wasn't fast, but we're talking world-class speed here. You haven't had that since Joey Galloway, since the days of Joey flexing his muscle. So I think this is going to be a game changer for you guys if he's able to stay healthy. What up, T-Money? Andrew Kim says, what's up, Lou? Liking the recent Ravens moves recently. Just waiting on Claiborne and Mangold, and we're good. Corey Davis or Mike Williams would be Ravens pick at 16. We shall see. Ravens among some teams that I felt like did some really good things in free agency, and I'm going to make another video about that down the line. Patriots have absolutely killed it. I'm going to do a video just on the Patriots and what they've done because I'm just floored by the Patriots' aggressiveness in free agency this season. But I think the Ravens have done some really good things to put themselves in a position to compete. And they're already a team that competes. I think they've done some things to really put themselves in that discussion of Super Bowl contending football team. We'll see what happens with their draft and the rest of their offseason. Rarely even, my man Reed, let's see. Let's keep going down the line here. Says, Lou, I'm convinced that either Dalvin Cook or John Ross will be there at 19. Think there is a chance of that. Absolutely. There's a chance both of those guys could be on the board at that point. John Ross, with the way that he ran, a little less likely now. Teams love speed, his ability to catch it. He's just not a speed demon. He's not a guy that just runs really fast. He can actually catch the football. He can actually run routes. I think John Ross will be off the board probably before 19 now. Dalvin Cook, I think, is more likely of the two. Now, both of those guys could be there at 19, absolutely. I think of the two, though, the guy that will probably most likely still be there is Dalvin Cook. Again, a lot of things can change between now and the draft, but running backs tend to get pushed down, quarterbacks tend to get pushed up, offensive linemen tend to get pushed up, and in a draft where there aren't many good offensive linemen, those two top linemen, maybe even three, may get pushed up the board a little bit. And the one position that usually suffers when guys get pushed up the board unnecessarily is the running back position. And I think you may see that with Dalvin Cook getting pushed down. Maybe. I'm not saying. I'm just saying we'll see what happens. Running back position generally does get pushed down once players elevate in a draft. So we'll see what happens. Kendall Hardy says, could Zay Jones go into the late first, early second? Zay Jones really helped himself at the combine. A lot of people question his speed. He went out, and I believe Zay Jones ran like a 4.47, which a lot of people didn't think he was capable of doing. He could sneak into the end of the first round. It just depends on how many teams are looking to grab receivers. But remember, I think there are three guys that are going to come off the board before you even get into a Zay Jones discussion. Mike Williams out of Clemson, John Ross out of Washington, and then Corey Davis again. I don't know that Corey Davis discussion is going to change at least 3 or 4 different times before the draft happens, especially if he doesn't work out for these teams before the draft comes. But you'd like to think that Corey Davis, his body of work at Central Michigan is enough to allow him to sneak into the first round as well and still be at least one of the first 3 receivers off the board. So how many receivers are coming off the board in the first round is what you got to ask yourself. I don't know if more than 3 are coming off the board in the first round. I don't even know if 3 are coming off the board in the first round. You'd like to think 3 at minimum is coming off the board in the first round. But again, we'll see what happens. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that Zay Jones, with his body of work, what he did at the Senior Bowl, what he did at the Combine, I think he's really starting to jump up some draft boards. I think Zay Jones is a guy that's really starting to impress. So we'll see what happens with him moving forward. All right, we'll keep it going. Andrew Kim says, really sucks for Sidney. I would take a chance on him in round 2 or 3. It really does suck for him. And I think a lot of teams are thinking that same thing. We'll take a flyer out on him in the second round, but we can't touch him with a 10-foot pole in the first round. And that's what we saw from Jalen Smith last year. A lot of people loved his skill set, thought, hey, man, if this guy could ever get back to what he was, he's worth a first-round pick, but we just can't take that chance. Most teams want immediate impact out of their first-round pick. The game has changed. No longer do the days of having a first-round pick be an incubator and protected in the year 1. Teams want to take that bubble wrap off of their investment in round 1 and put them right out on the field right away and get some kind of return in year 1. And you're not going to get that out of Sidney Jones, unfortunately, because of that Achilles injury. So I think teams are going to wait until the second round before they even allow him to enter the conversation. Pamil Production says, so help me if the Steelers don't take a linebacker or a DB in the draft. They're going to take one of each at least, if not multiples of both. This is a deep draft for defensive back, so I expect them to take multiples there, whether it's 1 safety, 1 corner, 2 corners and a safety, 2 safeties and a corner, or some kind of combination of the sort. They're going to take a linebacker as well, too. They lose Timmons in free agency. I think they're going to and Jarvis Jones is now gone as well. They're going to take a linebacker for certain. May take more than one, knowing the Steelers. It may take one in the first round, knowing the Steelers. That's what they've done over the last few years, draft first-round linebackers. So it would not shock me if they continue that trend. Last year, they took a corner, but the 2 previous years, Bud Dupree in the first round, and the year before that, Ryan Shazier in the first round. So it's not uncommon. And Jarvis Jones in the first round. So it's not uncommon for the Steelers to go after a linebacker. They love their linebackers in Pittsburgh. That's why they used to call them Blitzburg. Would not shock me in the least if they went back to that well once again next in this upcoming draft. Ofo Really the God says, is McCaffrey a gadget guy or a true running back? Running backs had slow free agency. Does it affect a running back high? The running back free agency market is always very slow because teams are hesitant to spend money on a guy that's entering his second contract. Again, the running back position is one of those positions, much like it's unlike any other position, I should say, where, once you get to about 28, 29, teams are very wary about when are the wheels going to fall off. You could have had a career year at 28, and by, 30, you could be Michael Turner, the burner. Remember, Burner was kicking ass in Atlanta, and he just, one year, he just fell off, and he was done. That was it. And that's the lifespan of a running back. There's only, it's like a finite number of carries you can, have, and as many hits as you can take. There's a finite number before your body just gives as a running back. And teams aren't willing to spend that coin on running backs. So they're more likely to go in the draft and get a guy that's going to be cheap, that's going to be on a rookie contract, that they're not going to have to pay a ton of money to. That's one of those positions that it's no country for old men. So I just don't see a team really going after, like you saw what Eddie Lacy got, a one-year deal from Seattle. Teams are really leery about giving out contracts. That's why Adrian Peterson hasn't signed a deal. He's 31 years old, and even though we think he's probably got at least 1 or 2 good years of football left in him, he's still 31 years old. Teams are hesitant to go after a 31-year-old back when you can go in the NFL draft and get you a spry 22, 23-year-old and allow him to come in and help you for much less money than it's going to take to get Adrian Peterson to sign on the dotted line. As for McCaffrey, he, to me, is more of a gadget running back. I don't think he's a guy you want to run in between the tackles. I think he's a guy, though, that if put in the right position, like your Patriots, and I don't think the Patriots are looking to do that. If it fell into their lap, they would definitely entertain it, but I don't think the Patriots are going to take him. They just went out and signed Rex Burkhead, which I think they feel like he can be one of those dynamic, gadgety backs out of the backfield. So I don't see McCaffrey ended up in New England, but he is a guy that is a Swiss Army knife. On a third down, you line him up in the backfield, you hand him a draw, you throw him a screen, you split him out wide, he runs routes like a receiver. This guy's dynamic. He's going to also help you immediately day one on special teams. I love Christian McCaffrey, and he really lit it up at the combine for me. That was all I needed to see because I didn't know how fast he was. But the guy's so dynamic, and he catches the football so well. And in a league where backs out of the backfield, we saw with the Falcons last year. You need not look any further than what the Falcons did with their backfield and their guys catching the ball out of the backfield. You can change the game catching the football out of the backfield. Theo Riddick has made a living with the Detroit Lions doing the exact same thing. You catch the football out of the backfield in this new day and age in the NFL that's a passing league, you can have a mismatch nightmare. And I think that McCaffrey's going to be exactly that if he goes to the right team with the right offensive coordinator that learns and knows how to utilize a guy that is as talented with a unique set of skills like a Christian McCaffrey. Captain Spartan 04 says, no QB in this draft deserves to go round one. Let them fall to the second round. You know that's not going to happen, although you probably are right in that assessment. You know good and well, as much as I do, that is not going to happen. Rarely even, my man Reed says, one thing I'm excited about, Lou, not being the laughingstock of the draft for taking a damn kicker in the second round. Good for you. And yes, that was not a good selection. It may turn out to be down the line, but last year it did not pay huge dividends for you in year one. Vincent Coe says, hey, Lou, do you see Obi Melifonwu getting drafted by my Seahawks in the first round? Do you think that's a good fit? He, to me, smells and reeks of Seattle Seahawks. Height, weight, speed, specimen, physical, can run, can play multiple positions. He, to me, reeks of a replacement for either one of those guys at the safety position, and Cam Chancellor, who's getting up there in age and always barking about a new contract, and Earl Thomas, who last year was literally sitting on a table in the pink room contemplating retirement. He is coming back. He already confirmed that, but Melifonwu looks like a guy that would be a perfect Seattle Seahawk, and I think that would not shock me in the least. Now, he has to get to the Seahawks at the back end of the first round because I'm telling you right now, what he did at the combine is nothing short of magnificent. And we saw what that did for Byron Jones. Remember, Byron Jones was on no one's radar as a first-round pick until what he did at the combine. That opened some eyes. Cowboys took him in the first round. He's been an outstanding safety for the Cowboys ever since. Melifonwu might have done the same thing for his draft stock after the combine. And his size, you just can't teach his size and length, his speed, all of those things. That is a unique package there. I think he's coming off the board in the first round without a doubt. Will he get to the Seahawks? Now, that's a whole nother discussion that we will have down the road. Ofo Really the God says, Garrett has no pass rush moves, but wins with ass whoop. The draft has changed. Good effort and good first step, though. Taco from Michigan shouldn't go in the first round. Far from polished or feel for the position. Look, what coaches are looking for isn't necessarily a guy that's a finished product like a Joey Bosa, okay? They're not looking for that. Now, if you're drafting a guy in the top 5, you'd like him to be a finished product. You'd like him to be polished. But at the end of the day, Jadeveon Clowney wasn't a finished product as a number 1 overall selection. You take him because he's an athletic freak, and you get a coach to mold him into the type of football player that you want him to be. You can't teach what Myles Garrett has, which is size, length, a rare first step, and athleticism. You can't teach that. So what you do is you say, look, I don't worry about him not having a bevy of moves, which I've actually seen him do a couple of things. He's got at least 3 moves. He's got a fastball, which is just his speed rush. He's got a bull rush. He's got that pole arm, that inside pole arm that jacks up tackles, puts them on skates. And I've actually seen him incorporate a spin as well. So even though all of those moves aren't ready to go right now, they're in the arsenal. You like that as a head coach. You like that as a positional coach. He's going to be fine. The talent that guy has, it's unmeasurable. It's immense. You don't pass on that. And because of that, I think that he's definitely going to be the number 1 overall pick. And it's for Taco Charlton, another guy, similar skill set. You can't teach what some of these guys have in a league where quarterbacks run the game and rule the day. You need guys that can get after them. And if Taco Charlton is a guy that can do that, teams feel really confident that he can, then they're gonna take a risk. They're gonna go out and they're gonna roll the dice on a pass rusher. And that's the way it is in this league now. You gotta be able to go after quarterbacks. That's the only way you're gonna beat Tom Brady. That's the only way you're gonna beat Aaron Rodgers, is be able to get after him and frustrate him. That's what the Falcons did to Aaron Rodgers. He was the hottest quarterback in the league in the playoffs. In the NFC Championship game, it all came to a screeching halt because the Falcons were able to get after Aaron Rodgers and hit him continuously. The Patriots struggled early in the Super Bowl because the Falcons were getting to Tom Brady. When they got tired in the second half because the offense could not sustain and they stopped running the football and Tom Brady started to get comfortable, he shredded them. That's how teams win in this league, by protecting their quarterback. That's how teams win in this league, by getting after other teams' quarterbacks. That's why you got to go out and maybe overdraft a guy like Taco Charlton that's an athlete, that's long, that has some potential, but you're not sure if he's a polished product or not. Teams aren't worried about being polished at this point. They're worried about going out and getting guys that are athletic, that have length, that can win at the next level. They'll teach him all of the necessary skills that he needs to win at the next level. You just need to have all of the different things that we need to be able to shape and mold, and he has that. DG Production says, hey, man, how you feel about the Jags trading down and getting O.J. Howard in the first and Joe Mixon and an offensive lineman in the second? Well, as far as O.J. Howard is concerned, that would be a great replacement for Juice. You traded Juice away to the Miami Dolphins, and so now you're looking for a big-time tight end target. That would be an awesome target for Blake Bortles if he's going to work in Jacksonville. I feel like with the Jaguars, it's amazing that I say this with them, it seems like every year. They don't actually have any glaring needs. You know, the offensive line maybe can be shored up a little bit, but I don't think this is the draft to do that. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, I really feel like you would love to trade back because I don't think you have any imminent needs. When you look at that Jacksonville Jags, it's amazing that a team that drafts in the top 5 every year, you say to yourself, they don't really have any. I mean, just look at their team. Look at the way they're built. If you're not going to go get a quarterback to replace Blake Bortles in the top 5, just look at the rest of their team and you tell me where they need to attack. What's the one need that's glaring on their football team that you'd have to spend a pick on at 5 or wherever they are in the top 10 of this draft? And you won't really be able to find anywhere. And so I don't have a problem with them, trading back. O.J. Howard would be a great fit there, but there are other teams like the New York Giants, like, a number of other teams that are looking at a tight end prospect like that. Hell, even the Dallas Cowboys are looking at a guy like O.J. Howard and saying, look, he's a game changer. Jason Witten's getting up there in age. The Giants are like, we don't even have anybody. They drafted a kid out of South Carolina, Jarrell Adams, but he's no O.J. Howard. Then again, who the hell is? So, there's a number of teams. If you want O.J. Howard, I wouldn't trade back. I'd just take him. And again, maybe look, we can sit here and argue about what's too early, what's too soon, what's too late, whatever. 5 years from now, if a guy is an All-Pro or a 3-time Pro Bowl player after his first contract, are you really going to ask or have the comment, well, we overdrafted him, we spent the 5th pick overall on O.J. Howard? No one's going to give a shit, honestly. The Redskins, I remember the big hoopla about drafting Brandon Sheriff with I think we had the 5th overall pick that year, taking a guard. Who gives a shit? He's a Pro Bowler this year. He's playing at a very high level. Who cares? No one cares now. If the guy's good and he's your guy, you know what I say every year. If it's your guy, get your guy when you feel the need to get your guy. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No equivocations. Don't wait. Because sometimes when you wait, you're too late. Take your guy when you feel like you need to take your guy. As far as getting Joe Mixon and an offensive lineman in the second round, that'd be great if you were able to trade back and accumulate some picks and do that. But again, I don't know if Joe Mixon's going to be in there in the second round. I'm trying to tell you, I think Joe Mixon might come off the board in the first round. Again, when it's all said and done, he's probably going to end up being a second round pick, I think. Because I think some teams are going to feel like, well, the backlash of taking him in the first round is huge. But if we take him in the second round, it's a lot less backlash coming from a second round pick than a first round pick. So you may be able to steal him in the second round. We'll see. One time, Addis says, after we got Jackson from y'all, do you think the Bucs are a playoff team? They were already knocking on the door last year. And so all they want to do is keep improving, keep progressing. And that's a big move for their offense. Humongous move. Yeah, I think they're one of those teams that they're on the rise. With a young quarterback, a young nucleus, they're on the rise. They're heading in the right direction. And D-Jax, let me keep reiterating this, a healthy D-Jax changes things in Tampa Bay. 32 J-Lock says, how does Garrett compare to Clowney? I think they're similar. Clowney, a little bit bigger of an athlete. Clowney's a little bit faster than Garrett is in terms of explosiveness. But if you're talking about motor, I think Garrett has a little bit more of that. I think Garrett is going to take the game a little bit more seriously than Clowney did. Clowney was a jokester early on. I don't think he really realized how serious it was until those injuries started to set in and he wasn't able to produce and people started calling him a bust. Then he started to really realize, all right, I got to tighten up. I got to take better care of my body. I got to be in better shape. And I think that's when things really started to sink in for him. I think Garrett is going to come in day one and have that mentality that it took Clowney 3 years to get. So in terms of that, I think if you're talking about who is more of an athlete, I think that the edge goes to Clowney there. But if you're talking about a guy that's going to come in and do a little bit of everything right away and maybe even change the culture of your football team, I think Myles Garrett is that guy in terms of comparing him to Jadeveon Clowney. If you ask me who's the more natural pass rusher, I would tell you it's Myles Garrett, to be honest with you. The better athlete is Clowney. The better pass rusher, naturally, to me, is Myles Garrett. So I'll be anxious to see what his production looks like in year one. We know Clowney his first couple of years was marred by injury, so you really can't compare the two. But I think the light bulb's going to come on for Myles Garrett a lot sooner than it did for Jadeveon Clowney. And if you're a team selecting number one overall like the Browns are, I think that's got to be comforting for you, knowing that you're going to get a guy that's going to come in and be ready to work day one. You're not going to have to worry about what his mentality is. Is he going to be a guy that's going to kind of take his foot off the gas pedal once he gets paid with that rookie deal? I don't think you've got to worry about that with Myles Garrett. I think he's a guy that takes this thing seriously and wants to be great, and he's going to come in and try to instill that kind of character and demeanor to his teammates as well. So I think that's how those two kind of compare. The more natural athlete is Clowney. The more natural pass rusher to me is Garrett. Vincent Cole says the following. Oh, yeah, what do you think about Lacy to the Seahawks? I hope C.J. Prosise becomes the starting running back for the Hawks next season, though. And I talked about Eddie Lacy just briefly earlier. I think it's a solid one-year deal. Really, it's just how healthy are you, Eddie? You weren't healthy last year. Don't know if we can trust you to stay healthy. So we want to know, how healthy are you? Can you come in and help us? And I think that's what they're looking at, a 1-2 punch with C.J. Prosise being more of that lightning guy and Eddie coming in being the thunder. And that could be a great 1-2 combination there for the Seahawks. If those two guys can stay out. Again, we're talking about health with these two running backs. Neither one of them were able to stay healthy last season. So I think it's a great move for the Seahawks because when their running game is right, their football team is right offensively. When their football team is right offensively, they're one of the toughest teams in the league to defend because Russell Wilson is a load. The receivers don't get enough credit, but they're a handful. Jimmy Graham is still finding his footing in Seattle, but he's a guy that you got to deal with. And like I said, the defense is always good in Seattle. The whole dynamic changes when Earl Thomas is on the football field. When he's not on the field, and that's why I said a guy like Obi Melifonwu coming to Seattle makes a ton of sense if they can get their hands on him. But we'll see what happens with the Seattle Seahawks this upcoming season. Rarely even says, Lou, you like the prior signing? I thought it was a good move. I did like the signing, and I'll talk about that more when I do a Redskins video. But I too thought it was a really good signing. I didn't think we were going to get him. And honestly, the Redskins took advantage of a soft market for Terrell Pryor. I was talking to my man, his name escapes me. He's a Browns fan. My man Brian Fox, B. Fox, was telling me that he said it's not going to be a big market for Terrell Pryor. He's a head case. And I know he's a head case. That's a fact. But I said the guy's talented. And I think there's still a lot more upside to him. He hasn't been playing the receiver position but for 3 years. So I think there's some upside there. And I thought more teams would be in the Terrell Pryor sweepstakes. And there just wasn't a big market for him. Redskins took advantage of a soft market and got a really good deal, I think. A 1 year, $8 million deal, essentially a rental. I'll take it. So in any event, first name, last name says, could we see a Kimdiche move with Mixon this year, and which team do you think will give him a chance? And remember, Kimdiche was on a much smaller scale. He was at the Combine last year. His offense wasn't as great as Mixon. So I think Mixon more so compares to what you saw out of Frank a couple years ago with the Seattle Seahawks. I think his situation, because remember, he had a domestic violence situation that saw him drop to the third round. I think a lot of people thought Frank Clark was somewhere, a late first, maybe second round pick, but not a third round pick. And I think Seattle took him in the third round, if not third, late second, like 63rd. So I think 63rd makes that the first pick in the third round, maybe. I don't know. Late second round, whatever the case may be. I could see Mixon seeing that happen. I don't think that Mixon is gonna go in the first round yet, but if this story keeps building, this theme and this train keeps powering on, and we keep hearing about this as we get closer and closer to the draft, there may be some validity to it. Right now, I think people are getting excited. He just worked out. He's talking to some teams. I just don't think teams are willing to take the backlash that's going to come with taking this guy in the first round. Now, second round, you can spin it. First round, there's a lot of defending you're going to have to do because you spent the first round pick. And that's an important pick. Second round, it's not, chopped liver. You know what I mean? It's still a big pick in the second round, but it doesn't carry the same weight as a first round pick. You don't have to explain as much to the fan base, to anybody, if he's anywhere after the first round. You spend a first round pick on him, that means you believe in Joe Mixon to the point where you feel like he could be the face of your franchise because you take guys in the first round that you think are going to be cornerstones of your football team moving forward. So you think Joe Mixon is going to be a cornerstone football player. That's going to be hard to sell to some people. You take him in the second round, you can just say, look, man, he's a changed guy. We sat down, we talked to him, we like what we heard, yada, 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 and then you can just move on. So I don't know if he goes in the end of the first round like Kimdiche did to the Cardinals. We'll see what happens with that. DG Productions says, guess what you let's see. He said, guess what? You remember an old lineman by the name of Laramie Tunsil? The Dolphins could care less about weed smoking. And it, that's not a big deal. It's not a real big issue. Like I said, the NFL needs to really take a look at legalizing that stuff and just not really being so stringent on it. It's not an enhancer. It's more of a painkiller for these guys. Helps them deal with the pain of a very stressful NFL season. It is what it is. Mondraw says, do you remember Lyle Collins had a really bad chain of events being related to a homicide and he wasn't drafted? Got with the Cowboys as a UFA and now as a stud. Yeah, things like that can happen right before the draft. Remember, his happened literally a week before the draft. His happened right up at the draft. The police wanted to question him like the day before the draft, which scared teams off. They didn't have enough time to get all the information. Just took him off the board. So, and remember, that's what happened with Tunzel. That happened the day of the draft. Teams didn't have enough time to gather information, and it dropped him out of the top 10 to the Dolphins at like 13. So we see things happen every year. It gets stranger and stranger, crazier and crazier every year. But in any event, Ofo Really the God says, that Clemson receiver, big kid but can't separate, let alone on the pro level, elite body catcher. How's he a first rounder? Because of what you said. He can't separate with speed, but he separates with size. That's why he didn't run at his pro day. I mean, that's why he didn't run at the combine. We're not stupid. The same thing we saw out of Laquan Treadwell. You're slow. We know you're slow. That's why you didn't want to run at the combine. It's okay. He separates with size. Unlike Treadwell, who I didn't think was a great elite go up and get it jump ball receiver, Mike Williams is. Mike Williams will go up, climb the ladder, and go get the football. If your cornerback isn't 6'2", which we're going to see a bevy of them coming into the league, which is going to change things. But and it's going to hurt guys like Mike Williams if those guys can go up and time their leaps and go after the football. But Mike Williams, you put a 5'10", 5'11", 6'1" corner on this guy, and he can't jump well, Mike Williams is still going to win. So because of that, it makes him a first-round pick. You don't have to separate with speed in this league. There are more than one way to separate in this league. You could be an elite route runner, like a Patriots receiver, Edelman or Amendola. You can separate that way. Those guys don't have elite speed, but they run. They're technicians. They run crisp, precise routes, and they get separation that way. You can separate with just pure, unadulterated speed. Don't have to be the best route runner. Deshaun Jackson is not the greatest route runner in the world. But you know what? He wins because if I run 8 yards at you full speed, you know what your first inclination is? I'm going to turn out of my goddamn back pedal and I'm hauling ass. Oh, well, now that 8-yard comeback, that 8-yard hitch or dig, it's wide ass open. He don't have to be the best route. He just separated because of his speed. Same thing with guys with height. You don't have to be the best guy, the best receiver. You don't even have to separate. If you can box a guy, Marquise Colston did it for years with the Saints. All he did was run and box guys out, high point the football, Drew Brees throwing back shoulder fades. You don't have to win with a specific way. You just got to know what your skill set is and play to your strengths. And Mike Williams does that. So he should be fine. Protect428 says, Corey Davis said, F that pro day. Go look up my bro, Alpha Jallo out of Liberty University. He's a low-key baller, bro. Hashtag LU stand up. 100. So y'all heard my man, Tones. Go check out his man, Alpha Jallo. Hopefully I said that right. In any event, let's jump into this quarterback discussion. We got 10 minutes before I get out of here. So I want to jump into this quarterback discussion real quick and see if I can pick out a couple comments because I know you guys have been lighting up the comment section. And I want to see what you guys got to say about the quarterbacks. So I already told you that I think it's 9 draftable quarterbacks. Of the 5 you see in front of you, of Kaiser, Mahomes, Trubisky, Kaya, and Watson, I think 3 of these guys have a chance to go in the first round. That being Kaiser, Trubisky, and Mahomes. And Watson. So 4. I think 4 legitimately have a chance of going in the first round. I think Mahomes is the guy that's going to go in the second. Watson, Kaiser, Trubisky going to go in the first round, I believe. But Mahomes is intriguing. And those prospect videos, Draft Prospect 101 videos are going to be coming out here shortly as I've pretty much done the quarterback position. We'll double back if we got time, get to some of the other guys like a Davis Webb, like a Joshua Dobbs if we got time to come back, which we probably won't. We normally don't when we're doing this series, but we'll see what happens. But I'm intrigued with this quarterback crop because, as someone said earlier, none of these guys strike me as, and I've said this already, none of these guys strike me as a day one starter in this league. If there was one guy, I think it'd be Watson, but none of these guys strike me as a day one starter. But I like attributes from every one of these quarterbacks that you see in front of you. And it's all for different reasons. None of them for the same reason. I like Kaiser because of his potential. Big arm, big, strong guy. I think he's got a lot to learn about the quarterback position, but he's got all the physical makeups and gifts that you want in a quarterback. Mahomes, he's got just the biggest arm you could imagine. I mean, I haven't seen an arm the likes of this since probably Flacco in the draft. And I know we talk about Winston and all these. This guy can sling it. His arm is ridiculous. All right. So I love that about him and his ability to improvise. Trubisky, I just think he has it. He's got icy testicles. With the game on the line, Trubisky for me is a guy that I just think you give him the ball, he's going to find a way. And so I love that about him. With Watson, he's just a winner, but he's a natural born leader. There's something about Watson that I just say, he's going to find a way to get it done. And not only that, he's going to change the culture of your locker room. Like that guy to me just has winner written all over him. And then with Kaya, I look at Bradley Kaya and I say to myself, if you go to the right place, you're never going to be an elite NFL quarterback, but you can be a good enough quarterback that can get a team to the playoffs. And if the defense is good enough and the pieces around him are good enough, a la Kirk Cousins, you can win a Super Bowl with that guy. He's got that kind of game. You know what I mean? I feel like he's a steady game manager type of quarterback. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think you draft that guy in the first or the second round. You draft that guy in the third round. We'll see where he goes. But in any event, I like little pieces and parts of every one of these guys' games. And so I'm fascinated with this quarterback class, not because I think any of these guys are elite, but because I think these guys have potential if they go to the right. And it's always with quarterbacks, especially, but really any position, but quarterback especially, it's all about fit and scheme. You draft a quarterback in the wrong scheme, wrong fit for the offensive coordinator, wrong fit for the head coach, it's not going to work. Period. End of discussion. So I want to pick out a couple of comments, quarterback-related comments, and then we'll get out of here. Protect428 says, I think this quarterback class is trash, except for Watson, for real. He says, even Mitchell is a project, to be honest. I think it's this quarterback class isn't getting enough credit. I think a lot of people feel that way, that this quarterback crop is trash. I don't think that's the case. I think they all have a unique skill set. They're different. And I think all of these guys have potential at the next level. They just have to go to the right team. And I don't think any of them are ready to play. And I think that's probably why a lot of people don't like this draft class, because there is no Jameis Winston in this draft class. There is no Carson Wentz. There's no Dak Prescott necessarily, but we'll see. Nobody thought Dak Prescott was a day one starter. The Cowboys didn't even think he was a day one starter. They got thrusted into that situation. So we'll see. We could be sitting here talking all this nonsense, and one of these guys could emerge as a day one starter and be a damn good quarterback for a team and lead them to the playoffs. We saw Dak Prescott do it last year. Who's to say it doesn't happen again this year? We'll see. Somebody, Mind Draws says of Teez Tabor, he says, Tabor sounds like a guy you don't want to risk a pick on in the second round, but if he's available in the third, you pick him up, no doubt. We'll see, man. The guy's talented. Sometimes we let speed really warp our brain as to how good a football player these guys are. Look, just because he's not fast doesn't mean he's not a good football player. DG Production says, sorry about all the questions. Haven't seen you in a while, but I'm a Florida fan, and I take them both in the first, but I take Quincy over Teez, though. That's what's really good. And I agree with that assessment. I think Teez Tabor, if you have the right system for him, could be a first-round pick, but I'm taking Quincy Wilson all day, every day. That length, that size, and that speed, you can't teach that in this league. I just told you Mike Williams is 6'3", and it can go up in high point to football. You need guys like Quincy Wilson that are going to match him with size and length and be able to go after the football. Rarely Even says, everyone will be wrong about Brad Kaya. Watch. He's been saying that for quite some time. I'm not a Brad Kaya fan. I've told him that many a times. The more tape I watch on Kaya, though, the more he's starting to sell me that he's not as bad as I once thought. That being said, and I'm going to break Kaya down. I don't want to give too much away because I haven't done his draft prospects one-on-one breakdown, and that's coming shortly, so I don't want to get into that right now. But Protect428 says, I think it's an 8 to 9 quarterback class that can be drafted too. But Chad Kelly, he's wild as F. He says Watson needs to learn how to play in a pro-style offense. Kaya is a bum-ass hoe. And Kaiser and Mahomes need work, LOL. So that's what my man Tones feels about the quarterback position. DG Production says, as far as quarterbacks go, take Watson and that's it. He's the only winner, and you got to have that mentality to change a franchise. We'll see. John Pemble says, what running back in this year's draft do you see being a good fit for the Vikings? They need a guy that is a tough in between the tackles. Like, I think Asiata is a free agent. I don't know if he's even still there or not, but you need a better in between the tackles runner, because I think the secret weapon known as Jerick McKinnon is fine as an outside guy, as a guy that can catch it out of the backfield. I think you need a guy that can run in between the tackles and be physical. So maybe a Deontay Foreman out of Texas is a guy that fits that mold for you. Maybe a guy like the guy out of Pitt. His name escapes me, but the one that had cancer. Shucks. I think he's got the same name as the Terminator, which I can't even think of the damn Terminator's name. James Conner. Maybe, so it's not John Connor, but it's James Conner. Maybe that guy fits. Not as fast, but he's a physical in-between the tackles runner. Maybe that's the guy that fits in Minnesota. But before you even think about running backs in Minnesota, you need to fix that putrid-ass offensive line. I know you already went out and got Riley Reif in free agency, but you're going to need to do more than that. You're going to need guys to come back healthy, and you're going to really need to revamp that offense. Really, I think maybe if guys come back healthy and stay healthy, maybe the offensive line isn't that bad, because you made some moves last year, but guys just didn't stay healthy. So we'll see what happens with that offensive line. Let's see. DG Production says, are the Falcons not doing anything in free agency a good thing or a bad thing? And you think it's a good thing. How about you? Look, when you're a good football team, free agency is not normally what you do. When you're confident in your ability to draft, when you're confident about the players you have on your football team, you got a young team, there's no reason to go shopping in free agency. Free agency is for the teams that don't have a great roster, that need to supplement their roster. And really, for me, free agency has always been a supplement to what you already have. It's okay, like the Packers did. We have a problem at tight end. We're going to lose Jared Cook. Let's go out and snag 2 tight ends. That's what free agency is for. That you see a weakness on your roster, you go out, you address that weakness. That's what you see the good teams do. Seahawks say, oh, we need help at running back. They go out and get Eddie Lacy on a 1-year deal. They're done. You're not going to see them make a bunch of moves in free agency, because when you're a good football team, when you draft well, when you develop well, you're not going to go looking for a lot of guys in free agency, because you're going to have to pay too much to those guys. Free agency isn't free, and it's damn sure not cheap. So, I think the Falcons standing pat is a sign that they're confident in what they've done in the draft over the last couple of years with their young football players. And they're confident that they're going to be able to draft some more young, good football players that's going to come in and help them and continue to help them build on what they did last season. Relly even says, Chris Baker, is he the steal, the SOFA, steal of free agency? What do you say, Lou? I think he's a solid football player. Don't necessarily know if he's the steal of free agency. He could really be a force for you next to your big-time defensive tackle, because when he was in Washington, he was all we had on the defensive line. So now that he's going to be just another piece to the puzzle on the defensive line, I think he might actually be really good next to Gerald McCoy. And I think that's really going to help him. That's a really big defensive line you got there, too. You just re-signed Golston. I think that's a really, really good signing Chris Baker is for you guys. And I think he's better in a 4-3 base. I really do. So I think he's going to really shine. And again, when he's motivated, he's a dangerous football player. So I like that move. I'll pick out a couple more quarterback questions. And let's see. Navaz Balak says, do you think he said, who do you think is going to be the Ravens pick at 16? He says he has Corey Davis. We'll see. I haven't sat down and really analyzed a mock yet. So it's hard for me to give you a guy, but I think a lot of people feel like it's going to be a receiver. I think most people are confident that the Ravens need to address that position. And being that they attacked safety already and a number of other positions in free agency, I think it's a really safe assumption to make that they'll probably go out and attack free agency or the draft in the first round and be aggressive and maybe go after a receiver. Jackie Guerrera says, how would you feel if the Redskins drafted Dalvin Cook? I wouldn't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people, especially Redskins fans, want defensive help. I do too. But if we got a chance to get a guy that can change the game at the running back position, I'm all for it. So I would not have a problem with drafting Dalvin Cook at all. Vincent Cole says, please do a live Wednesday. That would be lit. Well, that's the point. That's the point of this is, and that's what I'm looking to do is, and I told you this, if you've been watching my videos, this is every Wednesday. It's supposed to be at 8 o'clock, and it will be moving forward. Every Wednesday occurrence leading up to the draft. So that's the intent, is for this to be every Wednesday. From here on out until the draft, we're going to be having these discussions each and every week. So with that being said, let's see if I can pick out one more question. Let's see. All right. I don't see any more quarterback questions. So we'll talk about another position next week, and I'll figure out which one I want it to be. But with that being said, let's get out of here. Vincent Phillips says, Nathan Peterman to the Redskins with the second-round pick. Absolutely not. Nathan Peterman is nobody's second-round pick. If the Redskins took Nathan Peterman in this draft, I wouldn't have a problem with it. It just can't be in the second round. Can't be in the first 4 rounds. Nathan Peterman is a 5th, 6th round quarterback. He's not a 2nd or a 3rd. I might not even be happy with a 4th round pick on him. But that being said, we'll see what happens as the draft approaches. We'll see. But if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Remember, you still got time to enter the Louie T bracket challenge. Go ahead and do that if you haven't already done so. Make sure you follow me on IG. It's me, Louie T. ITZ me, Louie T. That's my Instagram handle. I'm also on Twitter. @In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. Go ahead and follow me there. Facebook, In the Lab Room is a Facebook page like that. And of course, I'm on YouTube, Louie T Network. Subscribe to the channel. You know how we do it here on the Louie T Network. We're changing the game one live feed at a time. I'm going to be all over social media the next couple of days, next 3 or 4 days because of college basketball. I love March Madness. And so you'll see my face on Twitter, on Instagram, maybe even on Facebook. I mean, I'm going to be very active over the next few days because March Madness I hope these games are entertaining and exciting. A couple of buzzer beaters would be great. It's going to be fun, man. So, again, if you guys have a bracket, throw it in the bracket challenge, man, and see if you can get your team up first on the draft wrap-up series. That's going to do it for me on the opening edition of In the Draft Room here. In the Draft Room here on the Louie T Network. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.